Today's AskReddit post. People who saved themselves for marriage and eventually got divorced. What was your approach towards sex after the divorce? Oh boy, this is gonna be a good one. Let's get started. This was my wife. We've been divorced for 3 years and I'm pretty sure she hasn't had sex since, and won't until she gets married again. So she's apparently been true to her principles. How long were you dating before you were married? 7 hours. Somebody call 911. Shorty fire burning on the dance floor. This doesn't apply to me, but I do have a friend who is in this boat. His approach has been to swear off relationships and be celibate for the rest of his life. Mom didn't have sex for 8 years after getting divorced. She's a devoted Christian for sure. Unfortunately, she got drunk and ruined her 8-year streak. Got it on with my boyfriend's dad. Sigh. Are you going to be dating your stepbro here soon? Write this down. Pornhub people. I'm fairly certain they have this one covered already. Source. I knew a girl that was very hands-off prior to marriage. I never really thought too much about it until I went to her wedding, and before they kissed the pastor made the announcement that this will be their first kiss, and I was blown away that they have never kissed before. But after their "you may now kiss the bride" kiss, it was obviously their first kiss. The rest of the wedding and reception went well enough and I heard nothing from them for a few months until someone told me they are getting a divorce. Less than 6 months later. I have a few theories on why. I think the bride is asexual and either never realized it or did not reveal that prior to getting married. She got a bunch of tattoos after the divorce. Full chest ink, sleeves, but I never heard of her dating after. But we're not close. I used to think I was asexual when it came to being in a relationship with guys. When it came to get physical, it's like something would just turn off in my head. I didn't think anything of it. I just thought it was shyness. Turns out I was just really gay. It's incredibly easy to be a prude when you have zero desire for the opposite sex. Closet case that went through a very religious phase in college. You shouldn't have meaningless sex, he opined. No matter the why or the way you're inclined, allowing your passions to pilot your life, that isn't the path to a husband or wife. You don't have to focus on craving and lust. Take me, for example. My friend, if you must. I don't understand all these sexcapades small, because, when I look, I feel nothing at all. Holy shit, a 3-minute-old sprog. Love your poems. A favorite part of the Reddit experience. : In our conservative Lebanese society, after the first divorce, you get a free pass actually. Some people would talk about you, but a lot of conservative people would just tell them she's divorced. She can do what she wants. From what I've been told, my GF, Greek culture is very similar. You get a black mark which can be seen as bad, or completely liberating. Greek here. That's totally true. I'm in my mid-30s. Divorced. Greeks usually don't get divorced, so I'm the black sheep. The old ladies at church ask if I'm dating, going out, etc. I feel like they're trying to live through me vicariously, and now half of Reddit is doing it too. I have made a mistake. Good question. I'm an ex-Mormon and was a virgin when I got married at 21. Was married for over 6 years, had a good, active sex life, and when I got divorced 2 years back, it was a strange new world. I was excited to have sex with new people, but I quickly found after a handful of hookups that it wasn't always that great. There were some exceptions obviously, but I often find that people who haven't been in long-term relationships are pretty lousy in bed. Having a bunch of one-night stands doesn't make you better at ducking emo. Getting to know someone's body and experimenting does. If I could do it over again, I wouldn't have saved myself for marriage. The best sex I've had has been after my divorce. I have a general rule now that I won't have sex on the first date. I like having more of an emotional connection with the other person. It's more enjoyable that way for me. Having a bunch of one-night stands doesn't make you better at ducking emo. Getting to know someone's body and experimenting does. This. So much. My ex would be so proud of how many women he'd slept with in his life. But that didn't make him great at sex. His style was of someone who had slept around a lot. but never really got to know a woman's body intimately. The guy I'm dating now, huge difference in the way he holds and touches me, even the way he kisses. You can tell he has learned how to take care of a woman. I dated a guy for a short time who was selfish, pushy and crap in bed. He would constantly bring up stories that gave him an excuse to talk about girls he'd ducked. He'd be telling me this awesome story about some crazy traveling experience, then just end it by "yeah, sorry but I had sex with her." Like, the story still made sense without telling me that. He told me he'd stopped counting at 51 night stands. He was absolutely terrible at sex. And the worst thing was, he wouldn't listen. You get better at sex by communicating and listening to what your partner wants. He did pretty much the opposite. You dated and he was feeling he should tell you stories about him ducking someone else. That's a big yikes from me. Whenever I'm dating someone, I use all my brain power to avoid accidentally saying anything about my previous partners. I just don't want to make it uncomfortable. Yeah, same. I mean, I wouldn't lie if asked, but I don't bring up sexcapades. I wasn't jealous or anything. It was just quite unattractive. My scenario was a bit unique in that my ex-husband and I never did the deed in our marriage. After the divorce, I really couldn't wait to lose my V card. I had to suppress my sexuality for so long that my mindset was just to let loose and have some fun. But then I met a really lovely man and we hit it off really well. We're so compatible in many ways, especially in the bedroom, and I have no desire to know what sex would be like with someone else. Would I tell others to wait for marriage? Probably not. But doing it with someone you are deeply in love with is one of the most amazing things in the world, and it's worth waiting for that person to come into your life. Similar story but no marriage. I was with a gay guy 3 years, so there was obviously no sex. When he came out I was like, duck it. I'm gonna make up for lost time with a bunch of one night stands. I wanted the first time to be with someone hot. So I picked a guy based off looks alone and made my move. He was supposed to be the first of many, but we ended up getting along really well and now we're married, and that's how I accidentally waited for the right guy. I feel like you missed a real opportunity to have used the name Underthegada. Aside from that, very glad to see your story had a happy ending. My favorite part is the gay ex is now my best friend. He's godfather to our children and so much happier. I really lucked out. Are you sure there isn't a studio audience occupying half of your home that laughs and laughs and laughs at all of your delightful family antics? This is sitcom material. Your story has such a happy ending. Thank you for sharing. I kinda fit this. I was only with one person voluntarily and was date raped by the next man before I got married. I was a lonely fool and married my ex after only 3 weeks of dating. Of course I got pregnant right away. The next 20 years were full of abuse of every imaginable type. I won't go into it here. Check my post history if you're that curious. After my husband tried to kill me, he went to prison and I divorced him immediately. The last 6 years I've been with a wonderful, adventurous partner and I've done everything I've ever wanted to try with him. I've had more sex with him in 6 years than I did with my ex in 20 years. Plus, not being raped is nice. I'm glad you're in a much better place now. I only partially fit here because my husband is the only person I've ever been with. We come from a yeehaw town that teaches abstinence as their sex ed. Lots of teen pregnancy here. For reference, I was shocked when my husband put it in. I didn't know it went in there. We didn't wait until we were married to have sex. But we did stay together all through high school and college, and I have never been with anyone else. He had sex with a previous girlfriend. We now have 2 children together and are going to approach the whole sex talk very differently than our parents did. Whether they're ready or not, teens have sex. I would rather my children be educated and safe when they're ready to take that step. As far as sex goes, I just can't really picture sex with anyone else, get turned on by the thought of sex with anyone else. I only know what sex with him is like and he knows my body and what I like, so I have no complaints. He's my best friend and I don't ever see us getting a divorce. But if we did, I imagine I would have a pretty hard time wanting to have sex with anyone else, not for religious reasons. Ditto. My hubs and I were both virgins when we started dating. We had sex about 6 months into the relationship. I've been with him so long. and he knows exactly what I like and vice versa. I can't image sex with anyone else. And it wasn't great sex in the beginning. We had to learn each other's bodies. I can't imagine having to do that all over again. Now it's great. No complaints. But that awkward phase when we were learning. Don't want to go through that again. LOL. Wow, I'm surprised I'm the only real answer here. I wanted to explore. And I did. A lot of it was about doing things and then being self-aware enough to know how I felt about it and if I wanted to do it again. I think in the end I've been more sexually active than most people I know. Tinder was a lot of fun for a while. I came out of that marriage with more confidence than I started it with, and that made me feel sexy, which made me horny. LOL. I realized saving myself and being pure was sort of silly. Having sex with multiple people while I was single didn't and hasn't harmed my relationships since. In many ways it helped me know what I want and learn how to be vocal about it. Now 5+ years later I'm back to being monogamous and wanting to explore my sexuality with my current so instead of a bunch of people, but I'm still very open about a lot and also know where to draw the line. But I was definitely wild for a bit and had a blast. Finally a good believable comment. After going through that first marriage and doing things differently once single again, do you regret saving yourself for marriage the first time? Basically, if you could do it all over again, would you still save yourself for marriage? I was a virgin when I got married at 19. Had kids after I graduated and paid off my student loans. Got divorced at 40. Asked Reddit for advice on meeting people and found OkCupid. Discovered that polyamory and BDSM really appeal to me. At 19. I sincerely believed what I believed and I made decisions from a place of integrity. So no, I don't regret being a virgin. I shouldn't have married that specific guy, though. I still live with principles of integrity and sincerity, and living my beliefs. Though I became atheist around age 25 or so. I have no intention of getting married again unless there's a compelling practical reason to, and I currently live with my BF, and my 2 college kids are home too. My marriage of 5 years ended a month ago, divorce still pending. We were both virgins when we got married and sex ended up being a huge problem in our relationship. I honestly don't know what I will do in the future in regards to sex. I definitely will never be one to sleep around, but I'm not sure if I will be open to having sex with someone that I'm in a committed relationship with before being married. This stems from a Christian faith perspective for me. Could you expand on how the sex ended up being a huge problem for 2 virgins? Serious. Not OP, but coming from a Christian background and still practicing. Most Christian parents I know don't have a genuine conversation with their kids surrounding their sexuality. Instead of emphasizing that sexuality with your spouse is a blessed relationship in the eyes of the Lord, a lot of churches and parents seem to be overwhelmingly focused on shaming any sexuality in their kids. When you get constant shaming instead of a genuine conversation about sex and healthy relationships, you end up with these people who are marrying and simply aren't capable of communicating sexually. And that's how you end up with 2 sexually unsatisfied virgins. Yep. It's constant bombardment about staying pure, which means not only not having sex, but not thinking about sex, talking about sex, sometimes not learning anything about sex, and certainly not about pleasure, not dressing in any possible manner that could be viewed as sexy, and generally staying completely away from anything sexual whatsoever. Oh, and making your purity a core tenet of your identity and the cornerstone of your right relationship with God. And then all of that conditioning is supposed to magically go poof the moment you have a ring on your finger, and you're supposed to have the reward of magical and perfect sex with your one and only on your wedding night. Except it doesn't work that way, and usually the result is vaginismus, frustration, and shame. Making your purity a core tenet of your identity. This is a big issue for some people. Suddenly part of your identity is gone and you don't know how to handle that. I, now 38, waited until I was 20. I gave myself to her because I was sure I wanted to wake up next to her for the rest of my life. I felt like we balanced each other for fun and work. We met while I was in college and we worked at a pizza place. She gave me a positive pregnancy test for Christmas and I was happy as hell. After getting married she seemed to be focused on money and comparing our lives to others. It ended soon after. I got my bachelor's and continue to make good money. But the grass was always greener elsewhere to her. Everyone told me after the divorce I just needed to get laid to get over her. Sex to me was and is still special. I have only experienced it between myself and 3 others. I feel that it is more meaningful when that trust and love is earned. I really don't get the just get laid shit. Why would that help? You're setting me up to cry naked in front of some chick lol. Just like how you entered this world. My brother and his wife didn't have sex before getting married. Religious upbringing at both ends. Their marriage has been a bit of a disaster. While they are still married and have a kid, they are separated. They didn't really work from day one. It wasn't the lack of sex beforehand that is the reason for it, but more so the fact they never lived together before marriage. The two really go hand in hand when you think about it. Overnight they went from basically dating to living together. Given the problems they had, it was clear they simply did not know one another. My brother always tells me that he wishes they lived together before. Not so much that he wishes they had sex before marriage. I think that the living together bit is what can undo a lot of no sex before marriage couples. I agree. I think living together may even be bigger than having sex before marriage. Growing up Catholic, it was always shoved down my throat that you can't cohabitate before marriage because the studies show that people who do always end up getting divorced down the road, which is so. I didn't understand it then and don't understand it now. How could you go from just dating someone, not knowing their habits and schedule and everything, to jumping straight into buying a house together and hoping for the best? My friend who is very Catholic and went to school to study theology and catechetics says that the divorce rates of the people who go to her school are so high because everyone there tends to meet the Catholic man of their dreams, date for 6 months, marry while still in school, move in together, and then realize they're a totally different person than what they thought. It's sad how common this is. I lived with my wife for over 4 years before getting married. We had many big moments where we could have easily walked our separate ways but didn't. I feel it is healthier to work through problems without pressure of marriage or kids. Knowing you can walk away but choosing to stay together is a powerful thing that makes you stronger as a couple. If you only start working through the unavoidable problems after marriage, you're trying to stay together rather than choosing to. My first mate and I, though, didn't wait till marriage. We did not have sex with anyone else till each other. We are on the road to divorce, paperwork tomorrow. She's had sex since the breakup, and I have not. It's been almost a year. For me, the physical and emotional are tied closely to each other. I haven't yet found someone I have the emotional connection with in order to have the equal physical connection. I'm not saving myself for marriage, however. I've been called prude, old-fashioned, naive, etc. for being unable to act physically without the emotions to drive it. I've even hurt people by refusing sex. Communication about how you and others work, what your boundaries are and why, as well as expectations, are key in any relationship. My suggestion: take the time during the divorce to learn who you are, what you want, what you don't want, and don't listen to other people's expectations or guidance on the sex you should or should not be having. Do what is right for you. Do it purposefully. Do it consciously. Do it wholeheartedly. And of course, do it with consent. I want real answers, but the lack of a serious tag has me thinking I won't get M. Name checks out. What do my wife and kids have to do with this? Waited for marriage. Married way too young. Divorced after 14 years, went a little crazy for a little while. Now I just do sex like normal people, lol. Mine is kind of a complicated story. I did have sex with my high school BF, who I was sure was my future husband. I highly regretted it and decided not to do it again until I got married. Enter my ex. I don't know why I dated him. Felt dejected because I had recently been broken up with my best friend from middle school and pretty much the only person I dated in high school. I didn't have sex with him until I married him. Another mistake story for another time. When I married him, the sex was underwhelming. He was very abusive in every way possible. When we divorced, thank the Lord, I kind of slept with more people than I care to admit. I didn't feel like I knew who I was and I guess was searching. It was never with anybody that I was seriously dating and more than one was a friend. I never had a one night stand but I am so lucky I didn't end up pregnant or with an STD. Funny enough, when I met my now husband, we didn't even kiss until we had been dating for a month. We have been together for 15 plus years and it is the best relationship I have ever been in. Bro, you actually watched the whole video. I'd give you a high five if I was a human. Make sure to click the like button and subscribe for more great content. See you next time.